Oh, hey guys, what's going on? It's been a few days. Got my coffee in hand, and look what I found on sale. Mm. I'm going to be getting into the Shawn Ryan thing here in a little bit, but I just started this. Oh, it's not even hooked up yet. Hold on. But I really wanted to play this. It's been a long time. Uh, yeah, Shawn Ryan's talking to a reverend. It's going to be a long one. Probably not clip heavy, but very interesting. Should have done this first. Thought I had everything ready. Thought I had everything ready. I think we're good, right? Oh yeah, it's working. Wasn't working a second ago. All right, let's get into it. I'm excited. I guess we just start with the first one. I mean, feel like you have to. Oh, what the? I mean, we gotta go legendary. I'm gonna be rusty, but can't be a. Oh, what the fuck? Maybe I gotta. Maybe I gotta. Yeah. Probably have to download a few things. I thought I did though. Well, this is embarrassing. Yeah, that's not downloaded either. All right. Well. I guess we'll start the podcast while I try to figure this out. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. We got Father Chad Ripperger. Ripperger. I think I got that right. Signs of the Mark of the Beast and the Rise of the Antichrist. Yeah, because I've been hearing this topic for the past, oh, I mean, for a long time, but especially for the past like 4 or 5 years. So yeah, let's get into it.
Right before we started recording here, we had a little side discussion about UFOs and aliens.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what do you think about all of that?
Well, obviously.
I asked our pastor when I was a kid, when I was first being introduced to Christianity, and they were essentially trying to convert me. I asked him what aliens were, and immediately, without hesitation, he was like, demons. And I was like, at the time, I was like, wow, you're a liar. You just don't even know. Now that it's been a long time, like 20, 25 years, it's like, I think about that, and I'm like, is he wrong? Because I keep hearing that topic keep coming up more and more, is the fact that they're just demons. And I don't know exactly what that's vague, you know. It's like, what does that mean? It's like they're demons, but is there different types, or are they all one thing, or like, are they from this dimension?
Some of the UFOs can be explained by some of
Excuse me.
experiments and things of that sort, which people are not necessarily used to. However, usually when you get into stuff like the abduction cases and things like that, I actually did a conference on this more recently, where I parsed out 10 different ways in which, if you actually look at like abduction scenarios, that in point in fact, those abduction scenarios, if you actually look at what the aliens are supposedly doing, is identical to the same things that demons do to people who are possessed. So if you strip the veneer,
You know, I just heard a story that there was there's a guy that got I need to look into this before I can actually like really talk about it. But so allegedly, I don't know if it's confirmed. I haven't got there yet, but there was a guy that was going out, and he got arrested, and he was arrested for kidnapping people and then putting on an alien mask and anally probing them, and I guess he had done it to like 20 or 30 people, and it was just like thinking, like thinking the big picture of that, just like how many stories were heard back in the 90s, just like, dude, I don't know, man. Every time they get abducted, man, they go for that probing stuff. It's like, actually, that was just Gary down the street. He just had a weird thing, you know?
Of the alien aspect of it off, that in point in fact what you're dealing with is they're just demons. There's actually a book too, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's called Alien Intrusion by Gary Bates. And in that book, he debunks a lot of the sightings that people have actually, the footage and the things of that sort. It's a bit dated of a book, but in there he talks about the fact that too, that people who are in these abduction situations will actually cry out to Jesus, and then then boom, all of a sudden the abduction situation stops and they're sitting back in their bed or whatever the case actually is. So there's a lot of demonic stuff on that level. There's some that speculate too that some of the craft that we see moving in ways that are contrary to physical laws is also just a diabolic mirage, which they can cause. It's that type of stuff is extraordinarily rare because God doesn't usually permit it, but that can actually happen. So that's kind of just my general thoughts in relationship to it, that a lot of this stuff, not all of it, but a lot of this stuff is just diabolic in nature.
What does God say about it? Does God say that we are the only beings in the universe?
Well, I mean, ultimately, we don't have absolute certitude other than the fact of what we read in Genesis. So in the book of Genesis, the creation of life is actually restricted or seems to be focused here on Earth and nowhere else. Okay, my own basic observation is if you look at what NASA is doing in their studies and things like that, everywhere they look, they think, oh, we might have found life. We might have, and then they didn't, of course. And I think what we're discovering is that other than here, the universe is sterile. Now, in theory, God can do whatever he wants, but at least from a scriptural point of view, but then also even science, I think, is starting to prove it out too, is that we're getting to the point where we're starting to realize that this seems to be the only place that you're going to, that it seems to be the case. A lot of times too, the idea that there's life elsewhere is heavily rooted in the evolutionary hypothesis, you know, because there's evolution here, there must be everywhere, even though their theories of evolution are not only just scientifically problematic, but just even theologically and philosophically problematic. But that all being said, that's where it's rooted in, I think.
You know, with all the, I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of the Epstein stuff. Have you been following that at all?
A bit, from a distance, yeah.
That seems like some type of satanic ritualistic type stuff that was going on there.
Yes, actually. And actually, the stuff I've read about as far as you know, to the degree that I can have certitude about what you can find on the internet, the stuff that was going on there, and just the layout of the island gives an indication that it was heavily involved in the occult. The other thing I should mention too is that people don't get heavy into that type of thing. It's the same thing that we've seen elsewhere, where guys who suffer from homosexuality and they're active and they're very heavily active, it very often degenerates into ritualistic sex. It's the same kind of a thing there, that it eventually degenerates. Satan ends up just driving them because they're so disordered that he gets involved, and then he drives it more towards a ritualistic kind of an approach. So if it wasn't ritualistic, I'd be surprised.
I mean, with it, there's just so many questions about what's going on, and it seems like nobody high up, nobody that could actually do something about this is going to. In fact, they're just trying to cover it up. In fact, our mutual friend who brought you here today, I mean, we've had a handful of discussions about distractions and all the distractions that are going to come to try to take our eye off of the satanic ritualistic abuse that Epstein did,
right,
and all of his people that were involved with him.
Right.
And before any of this came out, our friend said, you know, I think it'll be aliens. And then, and then we see former President Barack Obama go on some random podcast and say, oh yeah, aliens are real. And I brought this up, I've been really angry about this stuff, and I went up to our oak tree and did a little rant about it and said, you know, you think this is a coincidence that all of a sudden the former president goes on a random podcast that nobody's ever heard of and says that aliens are real, right in the middle right in the middle of the biggest, most elite pedophile ring in the entire world while that's being
blown
unfolded.
Right.
And then you fast forward about a week, and of course, then President Trump comes out and says something about, what President Obama did was illegal. He shouldn't be talking about aliens. I don't know the exact quote, but he came out and said that. And then I have people, former guests that have been on the show, some of them that I've been trying to get on the show that haven't come, that are in the alien UFO anomalous activity, realm, and they're saying, oh, look at this. Oh, look, maybe the Epstein stuff is a distraction from the alien UFO. And to me, that is no way. Like, right. I am not taking my eye off of that ball. Don't try to distract me with this bullshit. And I mean, what do you think about that?
I totally agree with you. Actually, for this particular reason, there's kind of a bit of a backstory. So one of the tactics that the demons always use is, and very often use, is they rarely do a frontal assault on a particular individual. What they'll do is, and this is a diversionary tactic, which being a military man, you would be able to appreciate this. You're over here, you just lob bombs over here, so that people's focus goes over here. And what that does is that gives you the ability to maintain your activity over here and maintain your influence. So the demons will very often, so for example, one of the things that we commonly see is it's a demon of fear that actually drives things like sins against the sixth commandment, pornography, and things of that sort. So you'll drive the person to do that. But the real root problem is the demon of fear. So once you address the demon of fear, then this stuff just clears out. Well, this same type of tactic is actually going on. They want you to not pay attention to what's really going on or what's really in the background, because that's where their vulnerability is, at least in the relationship to the diabolic. So it has that same kind of a complexion. So you've got this situation where the Epstein stuff starts to kind of come to the surface, and then all of a sudden there's this diversionary tactic that's used to get everybody, because now virtually nobody's talking about Epstein. So you just get that diversionary tactic over here, and as you know, the American people have, a lot of American people have the memory of a goldfish, which is like 11 seconds. So as soon as you've got them looking at this thing, now they're paying attention to this. And of course, the whole alien things, I think, is just a ruse anyway. It's just a way for people to get focused and interested on that. On the other hand, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the world elite didn't want to use the alien things from the point of view of, if you listen to the people who have been alienly abducted, it's always like the aliens are always telling them, oh yeah, we're here to save humanity. Well, that's Jesus Christ's role, not aliens. We're here because human beings can't save themselves, and we're here to basically usher in a new era. Yeah, that's because the elites want to get away from or at least the demons want to get away from Christianity as the ruling ethos that affects, the world cultures, etc. So the very same things that the demons actually want is the same type of stuff that you hear the aliens actually talking about and going into. So for me, it just looks like a diabolic diversionary tactic, not necessarily in the sense that the people that are doing this diversionary tactic, the human beings doing this, are thinking that, they're thinking in terms of diabolic necessarily in doing this. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean that the demons can't be using them precisely to that end, because the demons do not want people to become focused on the moral degeneracy, because then they'll start demanding change, and the demons don't want the change. They want this degeneracy because it empowers them.
You mentioned demon of fear.
Yeah.
What is the demon of fear?
Technically speaking, it's actually Beelzebub, which, as you know from your interviews with Dan, it's the Lucifer and Beelzebub and Satan are the same demon, and he's the demon of fear because of the fact that fear is defined as the perception of a future evil over which you cannot overcome. So there's some evil that's coming down the pike, you see it coming, and intellectually, and you can't get away from it. Well, in my dealings with him, he says he lives in Beelzebub, says he lives in chronic fear. And the reason he lives in chronic fear, he said, is because, and it's also the same reason why he's exhausted. He spends all this time hyper-focusing on everything that's possibly going on, because he said God broadsides me a lot of times. So a lot of times I'm focusing on this particular thing, and then the next thing I know, I just get broadsided, because they do not have access to the divine economy of grace. They don't know what graces God's going to give to people, and as a result, the demons get taken to the woodshed. And so he's basically beat up in relationship to that. The other part about it is that they have a conscience, and their conscience bothers them, and they also have a sense of shame for what they actually do. They even mention
the demons have a conscience.
Yes,
and they feel shame.
And they feel shame. They know what they've done is wrong. They'll admit as much in session. And that is actually, other than the fact that they don't get to see God, that's their greatest suffering, is this pang of conscience of the evil that they've actually done. Beelzebub's even admitted to me in session that every time he gets someone to fall, he gets a sadistic delight out of it.
I wonder if it's... I know this might sound terrible, but it's like, do you get starstruck when you get to meet like one of the big guys? Like, oh dude, got to beat Beelzebub today. It's like, but are they everywhere? There's just so many questions, you know? It's just a whole realm, and it's like, this guy, clearly he firmly believes this stuff. Yeah, oh, Halo's about ready to go. We'll take a quick break before we get started on that. God, we're only 13 minutes in. I should have done all this beforehand. That was my bad. But yeah, I need to take a break. I just got a call, so I will be right back.